All right, let's get right into it. We're diving into this incredibly tense crisis unfolding between the United States and Iran. There's a ceasefire that's supposed to be in place, but honestly, it is hanging by a thread, thanks to some surprise military strikes and some really intense political maneuvering.
You know, this whole thing just exploded with incredible speed, starting with an attack that immediately put the entire global oil supply on high alert.
So, the crisis really ignited with this sudden military action, and it happened in one of the world's most critical waterways, which of course caught pretty much everyone off guard.
Now, the location here is everything. These islands, they're not just random dots on a map. They are strategically vital, sitting right at that narrow choke point for a huge chunk of global oil shipments. So an attack in this specific spot, well, that's a message to the entire world.
And Iran? They did not hesitate. Almost immediately, they came back with a two-pronged response. First, a very pointed accusation, broadcast through their state news agency, and second, a significant military response of their own, launching ballistic missiles and drones.
So, this is the really interesting part. How did Iran identify the attacker so quickly? I mean, that was fast. It wasn't just a guess. The answer came down to one key piece of evidence that pointed directly to a single culprit. The answer isn't in some sort of confession or leaked memo. Nope, it lies in the specific type of aircraft that was seen carrying out the strike.
And this isn't just any old jet. The Mirage 2009 is a very specific model. Apparently, some of these older-style jets have to slow down and lose altitude to deliver their weapons, which makes them a whole lot easier to spot and identify from the ground.
And this little chart here, well, it brilliantly illustrates the deduction. There are really only two countries flying active missions with this jet. France, which seems like an extremely unlikely actor here, and the UAE. As the only country in the entire neighborhood flying this specific plane, all eyes immediately turned toward.
And what has the UAE said in response to all of this? Absolutely nothing. Crickets. This official silence has only poured more fuel on the fire of regional speculation. Now, it's so important to understand that this attack didn't just happen in a vacuum. It struck at the exact moment a really delicate ceasefire between the US and Iran was already showing some serious signs of completely falling apart.
So, from Tehran's perspective, the responsibility is crystal clear. They're saying the burden of keeping the peace is entirely on the United States to enforce the terms, not just with Iran, but with its regional allies too.
But if you look at Washington's view, well, it's starkly different. The White House described Iran's opening demands as a complete non-starter. They said it wasn't just rejected, it was literally thrown in the garbage. So what we're seeing here is, a classic negotiation dynamic. Iran comes in with this huge maximalist opening offer. The US just flatly rejects it. Then, with a military deadline looming, Iran comes back with something a bit more realistic, a proposal that the US saw as a workable basis to actually start talking.
But look, this isn't just a two-player game between the US and Iran. The crisis is dragging in other regional conflicts, which makes any path to de-escalation so much more complicated.
This right here is a major point of contention. Iran is trying to link these two separate conflicts together, demanding that the ceasefire also has to apply to Israel's fight against Hezbollah. But both the US and Israel are insisting that no, the operation in Lebanon is a totally independent issue and it was never part of the deal.
And the stakes, they are incredibly high. This number, 1,165, that represents the people reported injured in the ongoing conflict in Lebanon. It's just a stark reminder of the very real human cost of all this spreading instability.
So here's Iran's economic countermove. And wow, it is a direct threat to the entire global economy. Closing the Strait of Hormuz, or even just slapping a toll on it, doesn't just raise gas prices. It can disrupt supply chains all over the world, impacting everything from manufacturing to food. That is a very powerful lever to pull.
And as you'd expect, a crisis of this magnitude abroad has kicked off a political firestorm back in the United States, and it's revealing some really deep divisions on how to handle it.
The domestic response has been completely fractured, just all over the map. You're seeing everything from Senator Vance suggesting this is all just a legitimate misunderstanding, to Senator Schumer pushing to reclaim congressional war powers, all the way to Governor Pritzker calling for the president's removal from office using the 25th Amendment.
And so, this leaves us with the ultimate question.
Each one of these pressures, you've got the military strikes in the Gulf, the diplomatic breakdown over Lebanon, and the intense political infighting back in Washington, is pushing this incredibly fragile peace closer and closer to a complete collapse. And the whole world is watching to see what happens next.